Rose was a cleaner in a big office building. Every day, she came early with her mop and bucket to clean the floors. People saw her as just a poor woman doing her job, but inside, Rose was hiding a deep pain. 10 years ago, someone stole her baby boy. He was only 2 months old. She had left him with a neighbor to quickly go to the market. When she came back, both her baby and the neighbor were gone. She looked everywhere. She cried for days, months, and even years, but she never found her child. Now, she lived alone and worked as a cleaner. She had no husband, no family, and no one to call her own. Just her mop, her bucket, and her memories. One morning, while Rose was mopping the hallway, she heard a soft sound. It was someone crying. She looked up and saw a small boy standing alone. He wore shiny shoes, neat clothes, and his hair was well brushed. But he was crying quietly. Rose walked closer. "Are you okay?" she asked. The boy wiped his face. "The children at my school don't like me. They call me names. I don't want to go back." "What is your name?" Rose asked. "Daniel," the boy said. "That's a strong name," she said. "Would you like to help me mop the floor?" Daniel nodded. He took the mop from her and started moving it across the tiles. He smiled a little. As they cleaned together, Rose looked at him closely. His eyes, his nose, his smile, something about him felt familiar. Her heart beat fast, but she didn't know why. "Where is your mother?" she asked. "My mummy is not alive," Daniel said. "Daddy said she left me when I was a baby." Rose's hands froze. She looked at him, confused. "What is your daddy's name?" she asked. "Mr. Blake," he said. "He owns this building." Rose's chest tightened. Mr. Blake? The rich man who never smiled? The man who once asked her strange questions about babies many years ago? The next day, Rose could not stop thinking about Daniel. She felt something was not right. She needed to know more. So when nobody was watching, she went to clean Mr. Blake's office, even though it wasn't her job. While cleaning, she saw a drawer half open. Inside was a small wooden box. She opened it slowly. Inside the box was a baby picture. Her hands began to shake. It was her baby. Her son. She knew that face. She would never forget that smile. Just then, the office door opened. Mr. Blake was standing there. He saw the photo in her hand. He saw her face. And he knew she had found out. Rose stood still, holding the photo tightly in her hand. Her eyes were full of tears. Her legs felt weak, but she didn't move. Mr. Blake walked slowly into the room. He didn't shout. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. "Where did you get that?" he asked. Rose's voice shook. "This is my son. This is my baby. I know this face. I know this picture. This is him." Mr. Blake's face changed. His eyes dropped to the floor. He sat down quietly behind his big desk. The room was silent. After a long pause, he said, "You weren't supposed to see that." Rose stepped forward. "Tell me the truth. Is Daniel my son?" Mr. Blake looked at her. He didn't answer. 10 years ago, Rose said slowly, "A woman I trusted took my baby and disappeared." "Did you send her? Did you take him?" Mr. Blake took a deep breath. "You were poor. You had nothing. I had everything, but no child. I did what I thought was best." Rose gasped. "You stole him from me." "No," he said quickly. "I gave him a better life. He has everything now. He is safe, healthy, happy." "He is not happy," Rose shouted. "He was crying yesterday. He's lonely. That boy wants love. Not just toys." Mr. Blake stood up. "Please, don't take him away from me." Rose's eyes were full of fire. You had no right. He is my child. I want him back. Suddenly, the door opened. Daniel walked in, holding a drawing in his hand. He stopped when he saw them. He looked at Rose, then at his father. He could feel something was wrong. Daddy? Why is she crying? Daniel asked. Rose quickly wiped her face. I'm okay, sweetheart. Daniel looked at her with soft eyes. You feel like my mummy. Mr. Blake looked down, saying nothing. Rose felt her heart break again. She looked at Daniel and whispered, maybe. I am. Daniel looked confused. What do you mean? He asked. How can you be my mummy? Rose knelt down in front of him. Her hands were shaking. Do you ever feel like something is missing, Daniel? Like there's a part of your heart that doesn't feel full? Daniel nodded slowly. Sometimes I dream about a woman with soft eyes who holds me. But when I wake up, no one is there. Rose's voice cracked. That woman is me. Mr. Blake stepped forward quickly. Daniel, go wait outside. No, Daniel said firmly. I want to stay. I want to know what's going on. Rose looked Mr. Blake in the eye. Tell him. Or I will. Mr. Blake ran his hand through his hair. He looked tired. Cornard. Fine, he said. Yes. She's your real mother. Daniel's eyes widened. What? I adopted you, Mr. Blake said. But I never told you the truth. Rose stood up. You didn't adopt him. You stole him. I saved him. Mr. Blake shouted. You were poor, you were struggling. I gave him a better life. Daniel stared at both of them. So all this time, you both knew and I didn't? Tears rolled down his cheeks. I don't even know who I am anymore. He turned and ran out of the room. Rose tried to follow him, but Mr. Blake blocked the door. Please don't take him away, he said, his voice low. He's all I have. Rose's voice was calm but firm. He's all I have too. And I lost him once. I won't lose him again. Mr. Blake leaned against the door. If you tell the world what I did, I could lose everything. My company. My name. My freedom. Rose looked him dead in the eye. You should have thought of that before stealing a mother's child. At that moment, her phone buzzed. A message. It was from a woman named Grace. The message said, I think I know the woman who helped steal your baby. She wants to talk. Rose's hands tightened around her phone. Another piece of the truth was about to unfold. Rose stared at the message on her phone. Her heart began to race. Grace, who is Grace? What does she know? Is she telling the truth? She stepped away from Mr. Blake without saying a word and quickly walked out of the office. She needed answers. She found a quiet corner of the building and called the number in the message. A soft voice answered. Hello? Is this Grace? Rose asked. Yes. Are you Daniel's real mother? Rose's throat tightened. Yes. Please, tell me what you know. There was silence for a moment. Then Grace spoke, slowly and nervously. I was the nanny in charge of Daniel when he was just a baby. Mr. Blake and his wife said they adopted him, but one night I heard them fighting. She was crying, yelling that she didn't want to be part of a stolen baby plan. Rose's hand covered her mouth. She could barely breathe. Grace continued, that woman who took your child from you years ago, her name was Clara. She worked for them. I think she was paid to disappear with the baby and bring him to the Blakes. After that, she vanished. Rose leaned against the wall, trying to steady herself. Where is Clara now? She asked. I don't know, Grace said. But I saw her once, 5 years ago. She looked scared. She told me not to tell anyone. But I couldn't sleep last night. I had a dream about you. About Daniel. I think it's time you know everything. Rose's hands were shaking. Can we meet? Yes. I'll come tomorrow morning, Grace said. I have something that belongs to you. A birth bracelet with your name and your baby's name on it. As the call ended, Rose looked up and saw Daniel standing at the end of the hallway, watching her. His eyes were puffy from crying. Was that about me? He asked. Rose nodded slowly. Daniel walked closer. Did you really look for me all those years? I never stopped, she whispered. Daniel looked down, confused and quiet. I don't know who to believe. Just then, Mr. Blake appeared behind him. Daniel, he said gently. Let's go home. Daniel looked at both of them. One gave him toys, cars, and a big house. The other gave him tears, but a heart that felt warm and real. I want to go with her, he said, pointing to Rose. Mr. Blake's face turned cold. This isn't over, he said. Rose wrapped her arms around Daniel. No, it's just beginning. The next morning, Rose woke up early. She hadn't slept much, but her heart was wide awake. She cleaned her tiny room, brushed her hair, and waited near the park where she and Grace agreed to meet. Daniel was with her. He held her hand tightly. He hadn't said much since last night, but he didn't let go of her once. Will the lady really come? He asked. Yes, Rose said. She's the only one who might have the truth we need. Soon, a black taxi stopped across the street. A woman stepped out. She wore dark glasses and looked around nervously. Grace? Rose called out. The woman turned. Rose? They walked toward each other slowly, like two people meeting at the edge of a storm. Grace took off her glasses. Her eyes were tired, like someone who had carried guilt for years. I kept this all along, she said, pulling out a small plastic bag. Inside was a faded hospital tag. It had a baby's name on it. Baby boy Rose Williams. The date of birth matched exactly. Daniel looked at it. That's me? Rose nodded slowly. I remember that tag. I tied it myself when you were born. I didn't want to help them, Grace whispered. But I was young. I needed money. Clara made me promise to stay quiet. She said you were poor, and the baby would have a better life. Daniel frowned. But I was never really happy. Grace held out another item, a photo. It was old, worn out, and slightly torn. It showed a younger Rose, holding a baby with a full head of curly hair. Daniel stared at the photo. That's me. Before anyone could speak, a black car rolled up and stopped nearby. The window rolled down. It was Mr. Blake. He wasn't smiling. I warned you, he said from the car. Stop digging into the past. You're about to ruin everything. Rose stepped in front of Daniel. You already ruined everything. Mr. Blake's voice was calm, too calm. You think the truth will fix your life? You're still poor. You still live in a tiny room. Can you give him the life I gave him? I can give him love, Rose said sharply. And I won't lie to him. Grace stepped back, frightened. I don't want any trouble. Mr. Blake's eyes narrowed. You'll get it anyway. The car sped off. Daniel looked at Rose. Is he going to take me away again? Rose shook her head. No, sweetheart. Not this time. But in her heart, fear was growing. Mr. Blake was a billionaire. And billionaires don't give up easily. That night, Rose couldn't sleep. Daniel had finally dozed off beside her on the small mattress on the floor, holding the baby photo tightly in his hand. The tiny room was quiet, but Rose's heart was loud with worry. She picked up her phone and sent a voice message to Grace. We need to report this. If Mr. Blake threatens us again, we need to tell someone. But before she could press send, she heard a knock at her door. She froze. Another knock. Louder this time. Her hands began to shake. She looked at the clock, it was past midnight. She tiptoed to the door and asked, "Who is it?" No answer. Then a deep voice said, "Delivery." Rose didn't order anything. She stayed silent. A folded paper was pushed under her door. She picked it up slowly and opened it. "This is your final warning. Keep quiet or lose him again. You've been warned." Rose gasped and dropped the paper. She locked the door, turned off the light, and pulled Daniel closer. Her heart was beating too fast. The next morning, Grace met her behind the bakery on 5th Street. "I'm scared," Grace said. "He knows where I live. I got a warning too." "We can't run," Rose replied. "Not this time." Grace nodded. "Then we need help. Real help." Later that day, Rose and Grace went to a law office downtown. The lawyer, Mrs. Carter, listened to everything quietly. "You'll need more than a bracelet and a photo," she said. "Do you have any medical proof that Daniel is your biological son?" Rose shook her head slowly. But Grace spoke up. "What about a DNA test?" Mrs. Carter smiled. "That would help a lot. If you want to fight for custody, we need proof." Rose looked at Daniel, who was waiting outside the office with a juice box in his hand. "I'll do anything," she said. "Just tell me what to do." The lawyer leaned in. "Then be ready. Mr. Blake won't go down without a fight. He's powerful. And he has people everywhere." As they walked out of the office, Rose saw a black car parked across the street. Daniel waved at her. She waved back, but her eyes were stuck on the car. The window was half open, and she was sure someone inside was watching them. The car pulled away. Rose looked at Grace. "He's watching us," she whispered. Grace nodded. "And I don't think he's done yet." 2 days later, Rose and Daniel went quietly to a clinic outside town. Grace had arranged it through a friend. They took the DNA test, and the nurse told them to return in 3 days for the result. Those 3 days felt like forever. Rose barely ate. Daniel stayed close to her every minute. Even though he was confused and scared, something in him had changed. He no longer called Mr. Blake Dad. He now called Rose Mum. On the 3rd day, they returned to the clinic. The envelope was sealed and handed to Rose. Her hands were shaking as she opened it. She read the first line. Then the second. And then the third. Tears filled her eyes as she smiled and whispered, "He's mine." Daniel looked up at her. "So it's true?" "Yes, baby," she said, hugging him tightly. "You were never lost. You were always mine." Later that week, they returned to Mrs. Carter's office. The lawyer filed a court case. The truth was clear now: Rose was Daniel's real mother. But Mr. Blake didn't give up easily. He hired the best lawyers and tried to block everything. In court, he wore a fancy suit and gave speeches about love and luxury. But Rose stood up, her voice strong and full of truth. She didn't speak about money or mansions. She spoke about a mother's heart, a stolen child, and 10 years of tears. The judge listened. Then he looked at Daniel. "Who do you want to live with?" he asked gently. Daniel stood, holding both the toy from Mr. Blake and the baby photo Grace gave him. He walked to Rose and held her hand. "With my real mum," he said. That moment changed everything. The judge granted Rose full custody. Mr. Blake walked out of the courtroom alone. Daniel ran into Rose's arms. For the first time in 10 years, Rose smiled fully, not just with her lips, but with her heart. Moral of the story: no matter how long it takes, the truth will always come out. A mother's love cannot be stolen, sold, or buried. It lives on, even in silence. Always fight for what is right. And never give up on love, even when the world tries to take it from you. Sparkles, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'd love to give you a shout out in our next video. Speech balloon globe showing Europe Africa. See you next time for another powerful story. Red heart clapping hands.